Masaka, so trying to hold on to the point, but he is just falling as Nick continues to slice and dice there.
17 Heroes Global Championship Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Nick channeling is in a slap chop there as he was able to slice and dice very nicely at the very end at that boss player. We're going to be heading to game number 2. Don't know what map we're going to be on just yet, but we're about to find out. Battleground choice is...
Wait, what?
Tomb of the Spider Queen.
SPT is going to be the one choosing Tomb of the Spider Queen.
That's what it says, Dread, yes.
Like a bit of a suicidal move.
I don't know if I would say suicidal, but definitely a hell of a risk.
I mean, you just choose straight up your opponent's, one of your opponent's best battlegrounds and say, okay, maybe the thought process we have to play you here. And no, not even that makes sense. Like,
I mean, I was looking at it saying it has to be Battlefield of Eternity. That's a map that they do so well on. It forces aggression. It's not about macro. It's not really about laning, which is really what severely impacted them last game. They go to Tomb and go, okay, this is what we want to do.
It feels like clearly a preference because they did do this against Soul Torturers as well in the first series of the day, if I recall.
It's just that out of all the map selections we've seen out of Expert so far throughout the tournament and the track record that we know they have within the region, Tomb of the Spider Queen is a European map, it feels like. And the fact that they have chosen only Tomb of the Spider Queen, the fact that SPT is taking it is a very high risk. I do have a bit of a theory as to why we might see this from other than the comfort level, that there is an argument to a strategy to picking your opponent's best map if you think that you are pretty competitive with it, to swap the pick order so that your opponent has to give too much information, essentially picking those 3 before the secondary ban phase, and that alone you feel like you'll gain enough competitive advantage in the draft with that information that it's worth the pick. That is the only major argument I can see here for SPT.
But I would argue that this is something you do either in a best of 5 or in the first map of a best of 3. And not when you are map behind.
It does feel like, you know, maybe a little bit too late to be able to move that out in a best of 3 format. Ultimately here, though, SPT feel like it is the tool, or it is the decision that is going to be able to make this at least a game number 3 versus Expert.
I mean, you can even look at ADRD right there. He's smiling. The guy's happy. He's thinking, they take us to Tomb? Are they crazy?
It's like a kid in the candy store.
ADRD usually doesn't laugh.
Yeah.
This is scary because I haven't seen that before.
Yeah. You're in trouble when ADRD smiles.
When ADRD starts smiling, you know something has gone seriously wrong for the other team.
I wonder if that's because they're theory, like the fact that they're taking this long in this pick, they kind of theory crafting down the road of a rather unique composition after a dominant game number 1.
There's a couple of things that they're thinking about. First of all, usually they are the ones who pick the map. As you said, normally they pick the map and then it's all about, okay, what is banned out against us? Usually would expect a Medivh ban, but I think one of the thoughts they probably also had was, is this going to be one of these high prioritized Ragnaros plays again from SPT that we have seen in the past? And if they don't ban Medivh now, then they have to pick him early, I hope.
Yeah. If they don't ban Medivh, then chuck the pen away.
That was audible. You didn't have to say anything, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing that I want to bring up about the selection of Tomb is that we've seen, I believe in all games so far of Expert, they've gone into the Tracer route. And though, yes, Tracer has been successful for them, I will argue that a team that is effective at making sure the Webweaver phase are not too successful and prioritize a composition on heavy defense early on will be at least able to go toe-to-toe against Expert with that style of strategy. I feel like we've already seen that displayed with Soul Torturers and not getting as much out of that situation as they wanted. Yes, they were successful in winning the game, but there were a couple of moments where with how big of a lead they had for the first couple of minutes, there's no reason that their opponent should have been able to make it there, other than the fact that Tomb of the Spider Queen's a, you know, kind of weird map.
Other thoughts? Whilst we just wait?
I'm just simply really scared for them because Dred just mentioned the Tassa Tracer, and that's a combo that Expert now used a couple of times. It's all coming down to what exactly is going to be banned and first pick on the side of SPT. Because when we're looking at what they're doing right now, you kind of have to ban out Medivh. If you don't do that, you all of a sudden open up a whole new kind of worms that Expert can throw at you, and they are happy to do it. There's nothing to hide here. Everybody knows they prioritize Medivh. Everybody knows they have strategies around him. So if they get an opportunity like that, they will take it. If you ban Medivh, then you still open up potential Tesla first pick, even a Tracer first pick if you really wanted to on the side of Expert. And then it's the question, how exactly do the Chinese react to that? Because we have seen a lot of Tracer play by now without Tassadar just heading into the double support, but even just even just a Tassadar first pick is insanely good. It's not only about the support on an auto attacker, it's also the vision alone that it gives you on this map, the control over the 2 turning points, the wave clear, just everything that is needed on this map is unified in Tassadar to some extent.
So my pen is safe, Medivh is banned away. First pick for Expert. As you say, yeah, Tassadar obviously so strong on this map in particular.
And also tanks again.
That
Other
too.
options could go once more into Muradin.
Well, we've seen Muradin a few times in that first pick role, but
Yes,
Tassadar is
Tassadar.
just too safe, it's too standard.
Because now that you pick Tassadar, you basically deny Tassadar Tracer combo to SPT. SPT is now thinking, okay, do we have to pick Tracer? Do they take it? Do we draft something against Tracer? And if they do neither, then Expert is sitting in a spot where they can combo off Tassadar with whatever they want. They can again use a Thero on Tracer. They can throw Tracer on Nick. They can play a Vala comp. There's like...
All of it is a beautiful choke.
It's insane.
It's a beautiful choke, if you think about it. Like, Tassadar shields, we banned Zarya, we forced you to ban Medivh. Where are all your shields if you all want to get in the Tracer? It's kind of crazy.
There is maybe going back to the history of Tiny's strategies and different things that they've done to be able to make up for, you know, some of the macro play that they have had in the past. 2-1-2 was the first, like China was the first region to bring out a 2-1-2 into a heavy kill composition with heavy macro or wave clear being dependent. They might be able to rely on that. It's far less successful than on maps like Dragonshire, for instance.
Yeah.
But it is an option. They commit to a Genji and a Rhaegar. Rhaegar will be able to aid with that wave clear, as we know. But the Genji, a bit of a place on a map like Tomb. Immediately, we've got to be looking at SPT committing to an all-in kind of dive-focused composition after that rotation.
So Tracer and what?
Muradin.
Yeah.
You have the initiation, you have the, like, post 7, you can just pretty much lock down one-shot anybody. If they're always put it, like, on a clinic on how to make that happen with Bad Benny and against Soul Torturers. If they didn't commit to that, because they have picked Muradin every game, I believe, before the secondary ban phase, or you've seen some traction for the drafts that Expert's been involved in.
Expert's probably now in a spot where, like, we don't even know how to deal with this. There is a reason why first pick is so strong. Normally, you are always first pick. Every single time a team loses has a choice between, do I go first pick, which gives me an advantage in a draft, or do I go for the map choice because I feel that on a certain map I have a better strategy and I'm way stronger than my opponent. Expert has very rarely found themselves in a spot where they get their preferred map and first pick.
Yeah.
Normally how this goes is the team that goes up against Expert bans out Medivh, they have to ban out Tassadar, and then the game begins. In this setup, now all of a sudden Expert as the first pick gets Tassadar, they now pick Tracer, they have Muradin as we expected, because it is just so absolutely obvious, and they get insane picks right now. So I think the only reason why they even delay these picks is that they have to ask themselves, this has to be a trap.
It's too good to be true.
Yeah, exactly. It's too good to be true. And I'm still waiting for the trap. And if SPT doesn't have one, then they have a problem.
I'm just thinking right now, if you're Expert, what are you looking to ban away? I mean, what immediately springs to mind for me, if you're going to try and go for this Tracer, when that would be the Tyrael, even the Uther. Anything that can negate, as you can see, obviously Tassadar, Zarya off the board, Medivh off the board. What other sort of protection tools do you have available at your disposal to draft?
For Tracer now?
To counter the Tracer, I mean, at this stage,
counter
right?
her.
At this stage, you've got the Genji only.
How does a variant ban sound?
I mean,
I'm not sure if I would actually commit on this map to banning Varian. I'm normally a huge fan of Varian against Tracer. The problem is that he has an insane lack of wave clear. And they already don't have, they have mostly wave clear on Rhaegar. And if they want to go for Varian, they go very much into the one thing where they're saying, hey, we need to eliminate Tracer. But then if Expert drafts around it and drafts more wave clear, they can just simply play the map. So I'm not sure if I wouldn't ban Varian. They don't. And I don't feel that SPT is going to pick it.
The only thing I could really see telegraphed by that Malfurion ban was that they wanted to go for the Greymane. Obviously, it patches them with the Moonburn for that wave clear, which they desperately need at this stage. But the Greymane, typically speaking, gets countered by that. You've got the Root, you've got the Twilight Dream. You can sort of tell the archetype that SPT are going for. It's very all-in.
I've spent about the last 5 minutes trying to figure out whether or not what this pick is going to be. And the biggest thing I want to see from SPT is, I can't think of what the hero is going to be, but something that can draw so much siege aggro, but is not vulnerable to the Tracer die potential and rotations. The only way I see SPT recovering from the transition they've made into this draft is to make sure that they have so much pressure on the structures that the Tracer is, you know, something they can neglect or at least not pay too much attention to. And like Sergeant Hammer, but vulnerable, Sylvanas vulnerable, Zarya was banned out, cleverly so. It's the only thing that fills all those parameters that I can think of. it's still indicating that there is, you know, that kind of hyper carry, but ultimately I don't think the Volo is going to really cut it here in this type of situation.
I mean, I don't think it can be something as mundane as a Vala. Kel'Thuzad. Like, I don't know, Kel'Thuzad gets blown up pretty heavily.
Yeah.
If you have Rhaegar Morales, you might be able to keep him alive. I'm really trying to think outside the box here. What has enough damage output and enough pressure onto the composition of Team Expert that it would compensate for all the problems that we are seeing on SPT side right now? Because I just don't think that a Vala or something along the lines of Lunara is going to cut it for them.
I want to
Hit me with a Jimmy.
Oh, I mean, I was going to think out the realm
Bring
of
it, yeah.
possibilities and think maybe the Jaina gives you Siege,
I
gives you
thought
the
Jaina.
Ring of Frost for the ETC Mosh Pit potential. You've got the Morales to try and protect you with a safeguard. I mean, it patches a little bit as to what they need. I feel it's better than the KT to a degree, but still, I'm not sold on the idea, Dread.
I'm not sold on the Raynor idea either. Like, that was the only other thing, maybe like a Hyperion pressure with a tri-lane that's going to draw so much aggro, but then you're suffering so much in other avenues.
Don't get me wrong, Skimmy, by the way. I'm not saying that I would love Kel'Thuzad and think he's going to solve the problems.
Oh.
I'm really just desperate for anything that I'm
Zul'jin.
like, what could it be?
Zul'jin is not the best, but at least he has the opportunity to self-survive on his own when Tracer ends up popping. Like, I would rather that than the Vala. I would much rather than any other. I want to see the Zul'jin.
I would actually agree on that. More so than a Vala pick from them now.
It took me 5 minutes to think of Zul'jin. How did that take that long? My goodness.
Well, we haven't really seen him despite the changes.
Yeah, that is a good point.
We had one game on the first day, I feel, and that was
We don't talk about that game.
Okay.
What every single team was saying, why would you
Is
pick
that like
Zul'jin?
Indiana Jones 4? Doesn't
Yeah,
exist?
yeah, exactly.
Why would you pick Zul'jin when there are far better options?
Aliens.
Is this the
Even-
parameter?
oh,
Is this the parameter when Zul'jin looks attractive? It seems so so channeled and so disgusting.
Even if he
I mean,
ends up getting
okay.
picked, look at the laning situation.
Look
Who's
how long
actually
they're
going
waiting.
to-
They don't know either.
It's gonna be 6, 5,
Who's
4,
that Pokemon?
3.
No, just
What?
no. Just no.
Very anticlimactic. I don't think this is it.
To be fair,
I mean, it is a double support. You have the support for Vala here. ETC is the best frontliner to play with a hyper carry Vala, simply because you can create the space. So it is a strong Vala composition. For a hyper carry Vala, this is a very strong setup to guard her.
Yes.
I just think that it doesn't trade well into what Expert has. If you have it against another draft and you banned out the Task Tracer combo, or got rid of a few of these things, I would absolutely say you can work with that. But I feel Expert really has to make a couple of pretty brutal mistakes in order to lose this.
We're painting a bleak picture here for SPT, but I think the caveat to all of this is that they just need to play out of their minds with this composition, something like that.
I think this is the best way to put it. It's not that the composition is poor by any means. You know, it's clean cut.
It's a good composition,
it
technically.
lacks a little bit of wave clear considering the map would be my only downside looking at it. It just feels like with the dominance that we saw in the last game coming out from Expert that you need a wild card, a bit of flavor, something that is going to really catch them off guard. And right now, running this style of composition doesn't feel like the case. A lot of them are vulnerable to the Task Tracer that Expert is obviously very, very skilled with.
And that was my point exactly, right? You know, you see the performance in game number 1 and you're thinking, okay, they need something completely different. Yes, this is cookie cutter. Yes, this is standard comfort picks, I'm sure. But as you say, the flair really isn't there for them to try and trump the performance of game 1.
It's time to go to our commentators, guys. We can talk about it afterwards to see the results as SPT is trying to fight back and keep themselves alive as they try and march on to BlizzCon. Will they be able to do it? We're about to find out.
That is right, Caleris. SPT may be on their last chance here in the tournament as we try to go to Anaheim BlizzCon. It's Morales and Fala versus Task Tracer, Grubby.
Yeah, I must say I was kind of expecting that Zul'jin to come in as well, but the draft is more generic than maybe we anticipated, and that's fine. Being normal is just fine in 2017, so I think they have a lot to work with.
Wholesome statements here from Grubby. Let's go ahead and go to game number 1 in its best of 3 series as we go to Tomb of the Spider Queen. Can SPT pull it off, man? Trying to at least go to a game number 3. If they do not, Team Expert will be our 3rd European team to make it to next week.
It's a great swashbuckling composition here for SPT, and that's some of the things that they do best. This is the #1 seeded team from China, ladies and gentlemen. They are on match point. Lose and they will be out. Win and they will go to BlizzCon. Win 2 games in a row, of course. That will be the deal. Potentially their last game of BlizzCon. Qian Xiao on Vala. We got Melody C here playing Genji. Together they will have to carry the big damage dealing for SPT.
That they will. The wind up into the engage there from the Genji. Now, Vala's still thinking about her level 1 here. I was a bit curious to see if we would be having an adaptation from SPT, maybe the multi-shot build. The problem is you lose out on that Hungering Arrow that can be devastating against a Tracer that may overstep.
Yep. I mean, we've seen some Hungering Arrows before, following Tracer very far across all her blinks. Travel slowly it may, but it will find its mark, like a homing missile. Nice Stormbolt there. Safeguard will prevent a lot of damage. Saka misses the power slide, will become a target in turn. ETCs need to be very judicial with that ability usage.
Well, getting an oldie one here. Hot Pursuit will be the pickup for our Vala player. We'll keep an eye on her build. You can still run the Hungering Arrow at level 4. You know, you're getting that movement speed, which is one of the major things that you want with that Vala, being able to kite backwards. Team Expert on the inside, pretty standard pickups. Murden going with that Stormbolt at level 1. Now let's watch this laning phase. Typically you got that solo laners in the bottom, but with Tracer leaning being in, we're going to have Team Expert maybe put a few in the bottom, rotate a little bit more often, or at least have Tassadar nowhere near that Tracer.
Help your solo laner. It's Help Your Solo Laner Day here in the HGC. And that's definitely very helpful, as otherwise, Nick, you know, Melody C, they could be under threat. There's a lot of visitors here. In fact, the north lane is more empty, and there goes down Genji. Tracer finds her first mark. Deflect was not available.
A thorough. With the clever movement there, use the blink to act as if he's going in for the pulse bomb, backs up, and then after deflect is used, goes in for the kill.
So smart.
Outplaying his opponent there. Team Expert continues to rotate and help out their solo laners, or of course all 4 teammates, as they put 5 in the middle here, pushing back and attempting to make sure to stay aggressive on the field. A Stormbolt hits on Rhaegar, but we have Soap playing safe.
I like to call that the accordion style, where you weave into the middle lane with everything.
Yeah.
And then back out to the top and the bottom again. You can do that if you help north and south with clearing fast, so that there are no XP minions to be missed. Meet S5 middle, do something good, maximum 5 seconds, and then return to your position. Melody C getting taken out here. Stormbolt, pure as crystal here, will take out Genji once again. Definitely overextended there. Try to make it a 2v1, and suddenly a 4 versus 2. This is Tomb of the Spider Queen, ladies and gentlemen, the closest triple lane map of the entire map pool.
And Team Expert continues to get a couple kills on Genji, 2-0. The multi-shot coming online here for Vala, so she is intending to be one of the strongest wave clears for SPT. This is helpful at level 4, and then 7, of course, when you get the extra damage. But later on, you also have the chance to continue building into the multi-shot, get slow set up there, chase that Uther and that Murd, and if we ever find a spot that SPT does find a fight they can move into.
Yeah, and finally, it's a little bit more burst earlier on than Hungering Arrow. Finally, Hungering Arrow is more burst, but it has a quest component. This one does not. 10 hatred stacks and your multi-shot is empowered with that level 4 punishment talent, so it's just a better early game talent. And hopefully they'll be able to use that to wrestle back a little bit of control away from Team Expert. They will need it.
Additional point, it helps soften up the opponents there. If you want to move in for that Genji, if 4 of them are grouped up and you grab that multi-shot. So it will require a different playstyle, but still it's definitely viable. And Vala gets hit with a pulse bomb as a thorough moves on in. Not even Morales could do enough to save her.
Such a far cry away from Team Expert's game against Ballistics. Of course, Tassadar was on the other side.
Yep.
Now, like 2 long-lost friends, Tassadar and Tracer are reunited. And they work together so well. Look at what they're doing. So many successful enterprises already. 3 kills to Team Expert's name.
Grubby is definitely a fan of the Tassadar Tracer combo.
Oh, I
what
love
it can bring
it.
to the table.
I love it.
That is true here, as we have Giants being grabbed, and there's also a tournament available for Team Expert. And they're working on the bottom side. I think they were trying to simultaneously grab the Giants as well as get the turn-in, but SPT walks down and gets the interruption before that level 7 hit. So that does slow down the turn-in from Team Expert. This is actually very typical EU. We haven't seen much of it here in this tournament, but in the league itself, a lot of teams try to get this first turn-in, and then as soon as they can, just get as many gems as possible for 2 turns in a row. That'll give you a nice talent advantage, but also open up the field widely, which is great for Tracer.
Hard to get away from Tracer if you don't have your front walls. Now let's see what Team Expert can get done with this. Big mistake by Misaka. Power slide misses spectacularly. Now with the pulse bomb, Safeguard will keep Misaka alive, but keep in mind, Morales is low on energy. and doesn't have safeguard cooldown available. Misaka is still low. Stay here at your own peril. Bad Benny is looking for the angle on Misaka.
Experts, they smell blood in the water. They're watching that Morales. They know she's low on energy. They're pushing as much as they can. Then Zhao is forced to pull back and try to hold this choke a little bit, but that allows Team Expert to step up with the Web Weaver and hit damage here on the ETC. Finally, with Saw getting some energy back, Team Expert will have to pull away, but you could see Expert wanting to push the envelope.
Yeah, and Expert is waiting for those cooldowns really well. I really have to avoid saying expertly because I don't mean to pun, but they did do so in such a manner. Finally realizing that an opportunity doesn't present itself, they rotate to the mid lane. They're here with 5, with that accordion style, pushing down the mid fort. They probably won't get it entirely because SPT has also shown up. But altogether, not a bad result for Team Expert. Nice Stormbolt, mid jump.
Lands it there. Melody's still fine though. Safeguard comes out, and so will be able to use some cooldown to keep him alive. Now, this is where SPT needs to make a decision. Do they want to hold on and try to passively soak level 10? Hang on here, as Masaka may have overstepped again. Goes in for a power slide. They're aiming for the Tracer. He's going to land a recall and get away just fine here with a Thorough being backed up by supports. But SPT needs to decide. Do they want to try and force a turn-in? Do they want to try and force a couple fights now before 10 hits? Or do they want to be passive and wait till 10 when they get their Dragon Blade set up?
So it looks like SPT will need another minute at least to get level 10, and Expert will reach it within the next 25 seconds. And that means SPT needs to make a judgment call. Will Expert have enough gems by then, or are we very good to wait until level 10? I think the answer is the second one. Take Bruiser, take the waves, and you can wait.
Yeah. You have Rhaegar set up for the Mercy camp on the left side. You do think your opponents are getting the Web Weaver set in. And we have SPT flirting with the idea of a fight at the top, with 4 members being in this area. Team Expert is dominating this top lane and about to hit level 10, so SPT goes with a safe card. Yeah, pull back, wait around for a little bit here, and now it's all about soaking as safely as possible. Even look at Rhaegar on the bottom left. He is a few steps behind his fort down there. This is how important it is to play safe. And this also allows for him, if they get wind of Team Expert trying to go for a turn-in, when they do get the gems, they'll need another, what, 40 there? 40? They are going to be in a spot where Rhaegar can grab the Merc camp and get it to counter push the Web Weavers.
Yeah, exactly. I actually thought Rhaegar might be grabbing that Bruiser camp, but he didn't want to deplete his resources too much, apparently. There have been word of some of those Bruiser camp invades. He didn't want to run any risk.
Big jump in here from Bad Benny, finding Masaka.
Nice wave of force,
It
yeah.
stops the power slide here.
Morales is doing really good work though. Saw there on Morales, saving everyone expertly. And the cool thing is, SPT has constantly been flirting with danger. Now, as that expression might indicate, it's dangerous.
It is.
But by flirting in such a way, they have kept Team Expert busy. They have kept them away from some of the major map objectives, such as bottom siege camp, the boss, and they have prevented Expert from exploiting their level 10 advantage by constantly showing themselves, tanking damage on Misaka, and then using Morales to heal him up. They have equalized, and now the turn-in. SPT has their best comeback into the game yet.
That's right. Flirting is okay, but don't fully commit until you're confident. With level 10 hitting here for SPT, they are ready to commit to the idea of moving in for a team fight. They now have their Mosh Pit. They still have Strafe here now. They also have Dragon Blade. You see them get more confident on the field. They step forward. Jin Zhao is ready to go for the auto attacks here as he works in some damage on the structures in the middle of the lane, but this is all to get this pushing and bring Team Expert towards this area. The real advantage should be in the off lanes, top and bottom.
As a choice of talent, by the way, I really like Strafe. It combines very well against Tracer and Li Ming, who are low HP but hard to hit generally. It's guaranteed damage on them when they're in range, and it really sets up people for a Dragon Blade. Generally, you'll turn on Dragon Blade when everyone is about half life on their health bars. That's when you turn it on, you try to clean up and get those resets. And so this is good synergy. SPT with a very strong push here at the top fort. So though, 37 gems. No, they can't afford
He's
to lose
slippery, though.
Rhaegar. Bad Benny and the juke!
He's juking and jiving, but the final auto attack, and that's going to be 34 gems, I believe. Masaka's going to convert.
Gems.
He picks them up. We're
Wow.
fine. Barely getting there, so being quite slippery, getting by this aggressive play coming his way, and gets the gems delivered towards his teammates.
Yeah, the funny thing is, had he not juked that Stormbolt, very likely the gems would have just expired, at least half of them, by the time that ETC came to pick them up. So even though he died, there was still some fancy footwork on those four-legged feet, and then finally delivering the gems to his ETC.
Problem now is that now ETC has over 50 gems sitting on him. Suddenly things become a little bit more difficult as that solo tank here for SPT. You have to be slightly more careful if you decide you want to go for a mosh pit. If you die, you need teammates nearby to grab them, or of course, you don't want to die when you don't have the teammates nearby or you do lose them.
At least Rhaegar now as a solo laner has much less to lose. He's clearing those top web weavers. Very smartly, SPT delayed their bruiser cap so that it actually holds the middle web weaver. They also don't have a fort there, so there's not as much to lose. And so they can focus fully on the bottom lane here, which is the most dangerous lane.
Fort, low on ammo. Getting low here with the Giants helping out, Team Expert is going to commit. Bad Benny jumps in on top of Volley here. Morales playing safe enough to make sure she's not in too much trouble.
So from level 1 to 5, I really thought this was Expert's game, but SPT is looking amazingly resilient. We don't see the kills yet, but then again, let's talk about what we also haven't seen. Strafe, Morspit, Ancestral, Dragonblade. They have not been using their full strength yet. They are trying to equalize on talents and on the map, and they finally have. But they are pretty resilient. They stay alive well, and so far that looks decent. Now let's see when SPT finally turns on the pain train, whether Expert will be able to withstand that. It has been a very heroic Devoid game so far, Trickster.
Yeah, they have been quite passive, and understandably so, being slightly behind. But you're right, they're now on a talent advantage, or not a talent advantage, but on even talents here with Team Expert. It's just a matter of trying to find that angle to go in for the fight, right? Bad Ben is doing such a good job of making sure to stop any chokes that could come their way, and Team Expert, as a team, has responded to Bad Benny's positioning well. They've always put themselves in a spot where they can get damage somewhere, but they have an exit route.
Now look at this, SPT is doing a 5-man top clear on about 5 minions. This shows the fear of Tracer. Nice double Stormbolt there by Bad Bunny, but all the lanes are pushed against SPT. It's near their keeps, and they're not clearing. This shows an incredible inclination to have a serious team fight right here, right now. If Expert plays it smart, they will completely make themselves scarce until level 16.
All about the poke here. Tassadar wants to make sure to delay when he can, and Li Ming as well. And they've done so twice. Misaka with that 70 gems trying to drop off. But Melody C, he takes a chunk to the face here. He's low!
Nice healing there from that Caduceus. No, the cellular reactor by Morales. 30% of her health bar by taking 30 energy. That was a nice attempt there by Tracer. Team Expert is actually needing to buy time. They don't want to just go for 16 passively. They don't want to give away turn-in. Big Storm Bolt and Stun Chain there on ETC. Melody C in trouble as well. Strafe gets turned on.
SPT is deciding to commit here. They're trying to get Team Expert low so they can get this turn in. And do they get it? They finally do. I think that was their last chance to finally pull it off. They do so. They will be at a talent disadvantage, but at least they've gotten some gems taken off of their ETC, who can now play a little bit more aggressive. And then they also at least have a little bit of breathing room on the field with Web Weavers pushing out. I'm more worried about, are they going to get anything off of it?
Yeah, both lanes and mid and bottom are pushed on account of them wanting to force a turn in at this particular time. That means by the time the Web Weavers arrive, they're going to be a little bit over half-life. They have a depreciation of HP as they travel and as they are alive. Top is already cleared. So now SPT is... What can they do? They don't have the same talent here. So do they fight the talent down? Do they just posture and just accept that this was just a comeback stroke in terms of map pressure?
Well, they're playing on the outskirts here. Melody C was flirting with disaster as Bad Benny jumps in and misses the Storm Bolt. 16 stunning for SPT, but they're trying to catch a Thorough on the side here. A Thorough says, are you challenging right now? He fights backwards here with the 16 and a shield popping off, and SPT just takes the passive soak they got in the mid lane and the bottom lane, but they are still half a level away from 16.
Not bad play though by SPT. They have enough gems for a second turn-in. They're closer to 16. Get another tower here, maybe one more minion wave top, but Expert forces the issue from the looks of it.
They should here. I think a Thorough should get more aggressive. Just stay a little bit towards that ETC. Don't get hit with the power slide, and he should be just fine. Bad Benny's anchored in a spot where if things do get too hectic, he can save the team fight, and Team Expert chases SPT back across the map here. And they will be close on the gem turn-in. Not quite enough, but should drop off what they have for now.
Yeah, 10 gems behind a full turn-in is Expert. We have more than enough for SPT. They're going to get 16 off the back of these 3 minions here. There we go. That means SPT can do just about anything. They are as free as we are, Trickster.
free and living. I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, that was way too deep for me, Grubby. As Team Expert is looking to get deep themselves, Bad Benny jumps in. There's going to be a stumble, and Rhaegar can't even get the ancestral scaling off on top of Genji. Masaka himself may suffer the fate. He gets picked off right away there as Team Expert kills 2 members of SPT.
Nick with the mirror ball, perfect accuracy. They burst down Genji with the safeguard, the impending ancestral healing, the Morales healing beam. He was critically out of position, but only by the virtue of Expert's accuracy and coordination. They gratefully make use of that. Take down ETC as well, deny a truckload of gems, and now pushing in with a double siege camp onto the bottom keep. Team Expert is on the verge of taking a massive advantage, if not more.
Jet Chow! He gets picked off there. We're going to have Morales grabbing the gems, but only 2 supports remain. Genji finally does respawn, but Team Expert looks at a keep and they say, you know what? We're playing for keeps, and they grab it.
Yeah, playing for keeps. To see what you did there, Trixler, and they're going to get the first one, maybe the second. Bad Benny with a very agile move there, narrowly missing the bolt. Will not get punished though. There's plenty of tools available. There's Cleanse, Hand of Protection. Divine Shield is still there. Misses another Stormbolt, but that's keep number 1. Keep number 2. The Thorough Angel is looking for his next mark. Nearly has Pulse Rounds again. Who will be my next victim?
2 keeps down, 3 levels up for Team Expert. They pull away, and they have enough for a turn-in. Melody C once again goes in for Tracer, and a Thorough, he seems done with this. This has happened too many times. He goes around for the fight, drops a Bolt Bomb. Almost gets it a blow up there. The Safeguard barely saving Genji's life.
Yeah, no Safeguard, no alive Genji. And that was Melody C going on a little one-man mission that says, not today. I will defend here by myself. It was really a solo action here, but it wasn't going to work out. I mean, at this point, SPT, they're doomed either way. They need to take a very poor fight or to lose by doing nothing. Yeah. So whatever happens here, don't say, oh, they threw because it's a bad fight. They need to take a fight here. Now, they get the turn in, but they're against level 20. No matter what, SPT will not get a good fight. Understand this. They know they're fighting with 10-20% win chance of the game here, but they're gonna give it their all, that's for sure.
Grabbing at strings here. SPT groups up as 5 in the middle lane. Has catapults and a Merc camp pushing into them, but they know they have to move forward. 3 levels behind. They're going to have to fight at a disadvantage. Vala steps forward with the cleanse, auto-attacking Bad Benny. Same time, we have Genji in the back right, but he gets blown up. ETC tries to dive as well, but he gets caught as well. Vala getting picked off.
Nick with the Li Ming, a Thorough with the Tracer, the immediate blow-up, gets stuffed, and you get stuffed as well. That's 4 down. Morales goes down. Team Expert wipes the slate clean. There are no members of SPT alive, and they have their visors on the core, and they have their visors on BlizzCon in Anaheim.
Grubby, it's looking like Thanksgiving as everyone gets stuffed there from Team Expert. We have constantly the pressure coming in from Tracer, and Team Expert will go straight towards the core and burn it down. Team Expert will be your 3rd European team to go to Anaheim BlizzCon next week and face off in the HGC Finals.
Congratulations, Team Expert, 2-0 victory in the Deciders match. They will finish 2nd behind Ballistics, who stomped this group with a 4-0 score. And SPT, unfortunately for them, will be dropping out. This 3rd place.
That's it here, Grubby, from us. Let's go over to Caleres and the crew as they talk about that series.
That's right, thank you, gentlemen. Strong showing from Team Expert as they take the series 2-0. Unfortunately for SPT, commiserations to them as their road here towards BlizzCon and the 2017 HGC Finals comes to an end. Gentlemen, Expert overall, we theorized that the draft would go well for them, and it didn't really disappoint, Kaldor.
Yeah, the draft went really well for them, and we could see there wasn't a single kill on the side of SPT. Expert dominated the game from start to finish. SPT got a few objectives, but that was already about it.
And I just wanted to take a minute to kind of like look at what that series might look like from the shoes of SPT for a moment.
Okay.
Just being a roster from a region, obviously with the visa issues continuously that they've ended up having, not having ZZH here after having one of the most dominant performances they've ever had, to go up against Expert, you know, and being the ticket to BlizzCon. That very first game, I feel like it just shook them a smidge too much, because when we spoke to them behind the scenes, they were always talking about how playful they are, how much energy they have, how fun they are, and sitting on the side listening to their comms with, you know, because we conveniently get to be able to do that here. There was very little communication across the board. It felt like that was maybe the very first game in that ticket to BlizzCon, realizing it might be just out of reach. And again, not having your full roster and feeling like you could deserve it. I very much can understand why maybe the morale had kind of deteriorated.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can say the same. I've been in those sort of situations, and if you are a team that sort of rely on that sort of very energetic, very boisterous sort of personality, and it doesn't come through, then you can sort of see the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, in terms of the draft, in terms of the performance, in terms of the actual strategy they tried to deploy. Commiserations, obviously, to SPT, but you know, some of the performances they put in on this group today were worthy of a highlight.
Yeah, we can discuss how things are going afterwards, of course, as we'll come back. But first, we'll go over to the stage as Kevin has Bad Benny with him.
Thanks so much, Kalaris. That's right. I'm here with Bad Benny from Team Expert. Congratulations on progressing to round of 8 BlizzCon. That must be quite the relief. I got to ask you, though, what was going through comms? What were you thinking when they chose Tomb of the Spider Queen? I know we feel like that's one of your stronger maps, but why do you think they chose to take you guys there for Game 2?
I think specifically why they chose it was because we didn't play that well on it today. I mean, in the past we played really well on it, and I think it's one of our better maps, but today our showing wasn't the best, so I think that's one of the reasons they did it, and they probably feel confident on it as well.
Sure, well, Game 2, you definitely had the upper hand. Talk to me a little bit about this fact. All 3 European teams progressing to round of 8 at BlizzCon. Was that a result that you anticipated, and what does that do for your confidence going into round of 8, thinking about the European region and its strength?
I think it was 100% chance, except maybe for us if we somehow didn't win. But like Dignitas and Fnatic obviously will advance, I think. And yeah, I mean, Europe is a strong region. We're one of the better Europe teams. It feels good.
Awesome. Now, I've got to ask you, what's in the plans for this week to prepare for BlizzCon? I'm assuming it's more spicy chicken, but what would you say you have on deck?
I think we're going to try to scream like ballistics a lot, because they're the one team we haven't practiced against, and we feel like we actually have a lot to learn from them from today's games. So I'm looking forward to that, and then just doing our best to prepare.
I have one final question. If you had to choose a team for round of 8, out of the ones that have qualified so far, who would you pick?
Dignitas or MVP. I don't know which one. I want to play both. Fnatic, because they're like Swedish and stuff. I don't really want to beat them that early. So.
Sure, fair enough. All right. Well, have a good week. I can't wait to see you on the BlizzCon stage. Congratulations once again. Okay, folks, that is the conclusion of Group D. We saw all 8 teams qualify over the last 4 days for the round of 8. I'm going to give you a quick recap. Ballistics and Team Expert from Group D. They board the BlizzCon bus alongside MVP Black, Tempo Storm, Fnatic, Team Freedom, Team Dignitas, and Roll20 Esports. That's 3 teams from North America, all 3 teams for EU, and 2 teams from Korea.